All right, so I imagine that some of us would like to be able to compete at the Pro Tour level, even if that doesn't mean we actually tour full time. But something that could complicate that would be working full time and being a parent. And so I think I have 5 tips or ideas that I'm going to try out that might help us to be able to one day compete at the Pro Tour level. So let's check it out. So idea number 1, or tip number 1, is to always have our priorities straight and also to be disciplined in our priorities. So for me, I want to make sure I'm present with my kids, and that is a priority. So I don't want to be multitasking, watching disc golf while I'm with my kids. I want them to know they have my full attention, or every morning and even every evening. I want to be sure I have time to read some good books and learn something new, spend some time with the Lord, and make sure I make time for those things and not do it while I'm multitasking. And that's where discipline comes in, because the things that are priority to you need to be in your schedule and unmovable, unchangeable, that everything else is said no to for that thing. Because if we don't control our schedules, other people will control them for us, and other things that are not important will be put into our schedule, and that affects our ability to put in time like training, practice, workout, form, technique, and everything like that into an already busy and crowded schedule that we're not controlling. So then, and the second one is knowing what you're working on. For example, you may only have 15 or 30 minutes between something you're doing. Again, being a full-time working parent, and so you need to know what you're going to work on and when. So for me, what that means is if I'm going home to go change before I go pick up the kids, I might have 10 to 15 minutes between the time when I get there and I need to leave. So I have some putters sitting in the garage and a basket in the front yard. So for 10 minutes, I can work on the form in my putting that I know I constantly seem to forget when the pressure's really on. So knowing what you're working on is a big, big deal. And so that leads in to also knowing what your strengths are and very clearly knowing what your weaknesses are. It's not really helpful to go out and constantly play round after round if you're not working on the exact weakness you're trying to develop, because there are certain weaknesses we can't just manage them. We can't manage having weak putting. We have to be able to putt well to be able to compete at a higher level. And so knowing what my strengths are, I can just essentially manage them. I can just maintain them and maybe develop them a little as I go, but I'm really trying to develop the weaknesses that make a glaring problem in my game. And so when you go out to play around, or you only have 30 minutes to go to the field, you know exactly what you're working on before you go there. So like I said, for me, that's finishing forward in my throw, like on my follow through, and not spinning off of the trajectory of where the disc is going. So that's something I think about constantly. And number 4, that leads to being able to know how to double dip in the things you're doing. For example, I had about 45 minutes just now to leave the house while the kids were napping, while the wife was willing to take care of them and do whatever was necessary. So I went to play a quick 18. I don't have time to lift, so instead I jogged that 18 holes because it's a short park course, so I got a workout in. I worked on my game. I also worked on those form things I just mentioned, and on my way home, I'm stopping here and I'm making this video that'll take me hopefully about 10 minutes, and I'm about 5 minutes down the road. So you need to double dip where you're able to, and I don't mean to multitask with the things that matter. So for me, if the kids are playing in the house and they're doing their homework and they don't want anything to do with me, then I might put on a video of a pro whose form is immaculately what I'm looking for and what I'm trying to emulate, and I'll watch and study that, and then the next time I'm out, I'll work on those physical things that he does so that I can try to emulate it. And lastly, looking at going to the challenge at Goat Hill, that's going to be a little over $200, not including travel and lodging. And so going is pretty expensive, and that means budgeting is going to be a big deal to be able to compete at these kind of tournaments until you're actually winning, to be able to just kind of break even so that you're enjoying competing at a high level. And so being able to create a spreadsheet of what you're going to be spending, where you're going to be spending it, and then sticking to what you say you're going to spend so that you have the set aside money for things like tournaments until you can build up a winnings, like an account of your winnings that can begin to pay for the tournaments going forward. And so for me, that means I'm using this Google Sheets document, and I have things like our mortgage, the bills we're going to pay, the gas we're going to use, the groceries, anything fun, missionaries that we give to. And the point of this is to be disciplined so that we have money to be able to go to things like these tournaments. And so those are the 5 things I think will help help us as full-time working parents being able to one day develop ourselves enough to compete at the Pro Tour level. And so if you have any ideas or thoughts about that or anything else to add to it, please let me know, because these are just the initial ideas I have of things I've been working on and things I'm going to continue doing. And thanks again for watching.